Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 15 in the book of Colossians. We're in this passage where yesterday he talked about identity. You're chosen, you're holy, beloved, you're hidden in him, you're forgiven. So, therefore, it should affect our actions of compassion and love and kindness. So, today we're going to finish that thought in Colossians chapter 3, verses 14 through 17. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. So 3 big topics today. One is love, one is peace, and one is the word. And I'm going to end today by saying, I hope you have trouble today. Why? Because that's the day when you let peace rule. That's the day that gives you opportunity to put on love. That's the day when the word dwells in you richly. So it's trouble when these things are needed. It's difficult times. All right, verse 14. Above all, put on love. When? Well, when it's needed, when it's difficult. So I was thinking about people that you and I may know that you encounter, and certain people are characterized by love. You may think about a person and say, oh, she's made her character, she's chosen to be a loving person. Well, when? Well, when times were tough. That person put on love when times are tough. So I may even title today, Love When It's Needed. That is situationally, without a decision, without which you end up in conflict and no peace. That's the moment when a person puts on love. It's a person that runs to the battle. What kind of a battle? Runs to the loveless battle and then inserts love into that battle. So what struck me today about putting on love is the when part of it. It's the time when people need to be bearing with, forgiven, a time of complaint. Those are in the verses just before this. So when people are characterized by love, it is because they choose it on the days and in the moments when it is difficult. So if I'm praying for you today, hey, I hope you have love, I'm also sort of praying parenthetically that you would have a day of difficulty when you would need to exercise love. So that's how I'm going to conclude. I'm going to pray that you have trouble today. All right, secondly, the same idea, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body. Similarly, it's a person who decides, who chooses, who makes an effort, who kind of swims against the river flow, swims upstream. When peace isn't ruling. So we talked about, let love rule when it's needed and let peace rule when peace isn't ruling. It's kind of the same idea. And then finally, 16, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. So let's break that verse down. Let the word of Christ dwell. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to let the word of Christ, which is probably to say let the person of Christ, and I'll make mention of that in a second, let the word dwell. So where is it? It is supposed to be inside of us. How much is it? Well, it's supposed to be doing richly. And when? It's when you need, similarly, it's when do you let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, specifically when you need it. And why is that? Well, because either we don't know things or we're bent away from it. That's certainly humanity's plight. Evil does kind of reign in our hearts. And we need to be taught, first of all, and then we need to be corrected. And I think corrected means you probably knew it and forget it and kind of chose against it. So not only do we not know stuff, sometimes we do know stuff, and we either forget it or we turn away from it. In what context are we to let the word of Christ dwell in us richly, teaching and admonishing one another? So this is in the context. One another is a New Testament code for the church. It's being in fellowship. It's standing shoulder to shoulder with people. And then I loved this last part, is we're supposed to do this with wisdom, admonishing and teaching one another with wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. So that is, how are we supposed to let the word of Christ dwell in us richly? Well, one of the answers, at least, is musically. We are to set God's word to music and use music in a way, because it's the language of the soul, it's the heart language of the soul. It certainly expresses groanings well and joys well, and it helps us hear the word in a kind of unique way, in a soul accessing way. And then it helps us remember, because we can remember, songs from our childhood. So today, if you want to let the word of Christ dwell, I would encourage you, make music a part of it. And just finally here, letting the word of Christ, I can't separate let the word of Christ dwell in you richly from letting Christ dwell in us richly. I don't see a whole lot of daylight between those. I don't think the word cannot be separated from Christ, and Christ cannot be separated from the word, and the word cannot be understood apart from Christ, and Christ cannot be understood apart from the word. All right, so my blessing to you today. So if today is a day of peace, a day of love, and a day of letting Christ dwell, my goodness, I'm also praying for you that it's a day of trouble. Why? Because when do you let peace rule? It's on the day of trouble. When do you have to put on love? Well, in a situation when it's needed. And when do you want Christ to dwell in you richly? In the moments, in the times where difficulty, when you need it. So today, and then finally, let all this be done somehow musically. So today, I hope you have trouble. Why? So you can let peace rule, so you can put on love, and you can let Christ's word dwell in you richly, which is to say that you would let Christ rule in you richly in your moments of trouble. Thanks for listening.